Hi, and welcome back to our Photoshop tutorials. This is our second Photoshop tutorial for KAT. So we're just going to pick up where we left off last time. We found this cool temple image on the public domain site, and now we're going to add to that, but mostly we're going to learn more about our selection tools through doing that. So we're going to start with going to Dropbox so we can get some of our own images. If you're not a KAT person, you can just grab some of your own images to work with. We're going to come over here and we're going to go to Yearbook and grab some images from here. So we'll grab a KAT logo to work with. And we'll grab a couple more too. Let's see, I like this picture of Marcus here, a little bit funky. And once that one opens up, we'll get one more of kind of an action shot. So we have that one. And then we have, let's say this action image of Kyle and Dale right here. So now that we have some images to work with, we'll be able to play with these a little bit. So we'll start with our KAT black logo right here. Now this is just a JPEG image, so I don't actually have the PSD open. All I have is this one flat image. The difference is if you go to the KAT folder and you open up the logos and you actually get, instead of the JPEG, you get the PSD. The PSD will have all the layers that you've worked with to make this image. So our Photoshop document has all of these layers, and if I turn any of them off, like the T, it will get rid of it. So that's the difference between our JPEG and our Photoshop images. So if I just want to get this one black one here, I'm going to unlock it so that I can play with it a little bit. On this selection tool, we have something called the magic wand right here. And this will only select one color of pixels or something very close to it. So if I select all that white right there, anything in these little dancing lines is what's selected. And then I'm going to do Control X. That's going to get rid of all of that white there. And then all I'm left with is the nice circle image. So I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to pull it over to our Photoshop document. I can also just select it and push Control Copy and Control Paste. But I like it right there. We'll do more with it later. So I have that one done. Then I'll grab these pictures. The pictures of people, I can't just use my magic wand because it will get very segmented parts because it only likes to do that one color. So to deselect that, you press Control D, and then instead of starting with the magic wand, I'm going to go up here to the Quick Selection tool, which is a great way to start our selections. The nice thing about CS4 and up is that you can switch between selection tools during the selection. So I'm just going to scroll over his face here, and it will automatically select other pixels that it thinks I want. So sometimes it does it right, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but if I just scroll through his body like that, it should get a lot of it. Sometimes with different color uniforms, it will leave out their flags and patches and things like that, so you have to be careful that you get all of those in your selection. So I'm going to get most of him here. I might leave out his ear and little bits of his hair and things like that. So I have the majority of him selected. But now to get a finer selection, I'm going to go up to this little selection tool here. This is my polygon lasso tool. And this one is nice because it lets me anchor. So I'm going to scroll in again, holding the Alt and scrolling in with my mouse. And I'm going to get whatever the selection, the quick selection tool missed. So to add to your selection, you hold Shift, and it will put a little plus sign right on your polygon. And you start clicking. You can let go of your Shift button after you start clicking. And I'm just going to add little points. I'm going to click and add little points where I need to turn in the selection. So see, it will just kind of follow me here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click around. And when the circle appears, that means it closed the selection. Sometimes you can't find the circle, and you can just press Enter and it will add that to you. I missed a little part of his back here, so again I'm going to hold Shift and just click along it. Close that little part up, press Enter, And he looks pretty good up here. I'm going to hold shift and add in the rest of his hair here. Press enter. Good. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So it looks pretty good from here, but what I really like to do for people is push this refine tool up here. So I'm going to put refine edge. This little box will come up, and you can change the background so you can kind of see what it will look like on different backgrounds. As you can see here, I've missed a little part of the logo right here in my selection, and some of his hair is showing through. So I'm going to press cancel because I don't really like what I've seen. So see, it missed the little blue part here, so I'll just shift around that, add that to my selection, and then I'm going to take out some little bits of his hair that don't really look good as part of the selection. So the little bits that I can see gray through. Now to take away part of the selection, you hold the Alt key, and then it will take away part of your selection as opposed to the Shift key, which will add. So right now I'm holding the Alt button, which takes away the selected part of his hair that has gray in it. And I want to make sure it's not too flat or too bouncy when I do it. So I don't want to take a big chunk out. So there we are. If I accidentally do something like this and I take out a little selection here, I can just go edit, undo, or Control Z, or I can go up to my history here and I can just drag it into the trash in my last selection I did. So I have this little funky selection part here. I'll take that away too. Alright, so now I'm going to go to my refine edge. And once I'm in this refine edge part, you have your little pan button, which means you can just pan around, just drag through. And from here, you can feather the selection, which makes it much lighter. Instead of hard edges, it makes it soft edges. I can contract the selection, so it will actually decrease the selection, or I can expand it, which will increase it, and you can see the little gray line along him. Mostly when I'm cutting out people, I like to contract it a little bit. And then I feather a little bit. I'll smooth the edges so they don't look too hard. And we end up with a nice selection there. So I'm going to do Control Copy, come back over to our PSD, and I'll do Control V. I'll leave him there like that for now, and we'll do one more image. Like this image of Instructor Kyle, so I'm going to pull him out real quick. There's a very serious face on. We'll do that. Oops. And I see that I've missed some of his eyebrow and hair right here, so I'll go to my polygon tool, hold shift. I'm just going to include that in. Get a little bit of his hair. And take out this one little section of his toe right here, where the belt's behind him. And you can always obviously spend a lot of time on the selection if you want to, or less if you need to. So that looks pretty good. I missed a little spot right here. So before I refine the edge, I'm going to take that out, because if you refine the edge first, and you have to do it twice, then you have one edge that's more contracted or feathered than the rest. So we'll do that. Refine edge. Looks good. And press OK. We'll do Control Copy, Control V. Alright, so now I have all my images, as you can see over here. I'm going to delete this one for now. And we have Instructor Kyle, and whatever layer you have selected that's blue is what layer you're going to affect with whatever tools you're using. So right now I'm just going to move him. And for his size, he's quite big for our image. So hold shift. So right now, to change his size, we do Control T, which is transform, or you can go File or Edit and Free Transform, which is what we have here. Hold shift while you change the size from the corners. That's going to hold his proportions. If you don't hold shift, you end up being able to squish him, and we don't want that. We'll undo that, hold shift. Now we're going to get him to the size that we want. That's a good size right there. So I'm going to press Enter to select that. And for right now, to name these layers, double click, and I'm going to press Kyle, enter. I'm going to turn him off for now. Same thing for Marcus, Control T, make him much smaller in our little temple. And we'll just have him shouting right there. All right, now for our KAT logo, make sure that it's selected. And we're going to do something, now as you can see, Marcus is in front of our KAT logo, but our KAT logo is in front of the temple, and that's due to the layer order over here. If I change the order, and I put the KAT logo up above Marcus, it will be in front of him. So we don't want that, we'll want it below Marcus. Now the cool thing here is you have something called blending options. If you double click on this empty part of the layer here, instead of the name part, you double click over here, this layer style blending options comes up. And again, it's for whatever layer you have selected. And we're going to start with the opacity, which is the opposite of transparency. It's how solid it looks. So I'm going to actually make it so we can see the temple through it, but we still have our KT logo there. So we're going to keep it there. There's all sorts of really cool things that you can do with this blending options. We'll show you some of those. So I'm just going to press OK and leave it there. And I'm going to turn Instructor Kyle back on. As you can see, Instructor Kyle looks a little bright, a little washed out right there. So then we come up to something called these adjustment layers. So with these adjustment layers, they will affect everything that's below them. So if I come up here to this brightness and contrast, I'm going to go here and I can make it much brighter and it affects everything. But as you can see, if I make it a little less, it will put everything underneath it darker as well. But I can change that too. So I can always go back to this brightness layer and change it however I want. Or I can merge it down to the layer below. So if I think that that's helped him, I'm going to right click, I'm going to say merge down, and then it will attach to the layer right below it. Once you do that though, you can't go back. Unless you go back through your history later on. But if he looks a little bit red or something, we have color balance. You can come here and change the colors a little bit. Notice it will change them quite a lot. So let's see, we'll go here and we'll merge that down to Instructor Kyle. Now some things that you can do is if you want to stylize these a little bit, we have really cool filters that you can use. So let's say with Instructor Kyle, I want to duplicate him. So in case I don't like what I did later on, I can always come back to this one. So you can do Control J, and that makes a copy. You can always right click and go to duplicate layer, and I'll make another copy. So now I have 3 copies of him, as you can see, and I just move them around so you can kind of see the differences. So again, it's just affected by what you do. So let's say this top copy here, which is this guy, I'm going to come up and filter, and these filters do all sorts of cool things. So I'm going to come over to stylize and pick one of them here, and it'll bring up this glowing edges, and it will show you what it will actually do to them. You can pick different ones from here. The colors that it pulls from for these filters is what's picked over here. So if I like that, I can go ahead and choose that, press OK, and then it's going to make him all stylized like that. And I can do that with this guy too. So I'm going to go to Filter, and let's try Sketch. And before I do that, I'll change these colors so you can see how it pulls different colors. So if I have it red here, I'll do Filter, I'll go Sketched, and I'll go Photocopy. The photocopy, this time it has red. Again, you can play around with these and try different ones. So now we have these cool little stylized images of Kyle. If you like to change the order so you can actually see Instructor Kyle, you can pull him to the front. So another thing that we can do is with our text, our KAT text here, go down to our little text tool, and you can change what type of text it is. So let's say I like this KAT, which I don't really. Let's pick a different one. I like this one, but you can't see. Let's do that one. That's a nice KAT. If I want it bigger, again, can Control T. Hold down Shift, and then we got a nice KAT. Now with text, you can do cool things. If you double click on that option there, you can do things like drop shadows. Make sure it's clicked on here, and you can pull the distance away or things like that. You can make it glow. Again, you can make it glow whatever color you want. You can spread it out nice and far from it. Change the color there. What I like to do is bevel and emboss because it makes it have more dimension to it. So you change the depth and the size of it here. Makes it look nice and good there. You can add contour, makes it a little darker. You can change the color from this blending option. You go to color overlay and you just pick it here. You can choose any color here, or if you want to pull a color from your current image, then this little dropper shows up. Say I want that color from that tree to pull out. But I think it looks a little dark, and I make this crazy color here. And it will change as I'm doing this. I press OK, and I do that. Or you have the option, instead of color overlay, you can do gradient overlay. And it will gradate between whatever colors you choose. You can also choose preset ones that are over here. To change the colors, you can click on these little stoppers here and pick the color. You can go from pink to yellow to blue, or what have you. You press OK. If you ever don't like what those effects are, you can right click and just do clear layer style, and it will go back to your original layer style. So those are a lot of our basic tools. Some of them over here, we do have this healing brush. Let's say you're going to scroll in, and we're on Marcus here. Marcus has a pretty clean face, but say there are a couple images. Make sure that you have Marcus's layer selected, and then you hit Alt to go ahead and choose. Let's do the spot healing brush. You have Alt to choose where you're picking from, and whenever you click on something, it will just take away some of those spots and blemishes, which is nice to have. So those are our main tools, how you use them. We have, real quick, this paint tool. Whatever layer you have selected, and you press paint, it will paint over whatever color you click on. The same thing with a background. So let's say we have our background off, and I have it on this background layer. It can turn the whole thing red. Likewise, if I right click it and choose my gradient tool, the gradient will come up here with whatever gradient I choose. Let's go from the red to the white. And then you have this little dot here, and you pull across, and then you'll have a gradient of that color across there. Right now it's on, we'll just do the regular gradient. There we go. So that's the second KAT tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I hopefully will see you for the next one, which will be more specifics on how to make yearbook pages and things like that. So thanks again. Bye.